What's up, everybody? This is Brian here to tell you about our podcast, Bingetown TV. Our hosts include 7 best friends with a love for all things television. We cover a range of genres with a focus on fantasy and sci-fi, but also dip our feet into drama, horror, comedy, and pretty much anything we think is good television. We use the traditional deep dive formula for new live shows that are released week to week, but our calling card is our Rooks and Vets and Pitchtown TV series. Rooks and Vets pairs 2 of our hosts that have seen a show with 2 of our hosts that have not seen a show. Pitchtown TV is when we have a special guest pitch us a show by having us watch the pilot and trying to convince us to watch the rest. If you're craving more content on some of your favorite TV shows, then you should listen to Bingetown TV. Find us on our website at bingetowntv.com, the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, or wherever else you may find your podcast.
All right, Matt, this is going to be a real fun episode for people to listen to because they maybe haven't experienced it as much on this show as a lot of the other Matt Kelly hosted shows, but we're going to see how many different ways I can pronounce the name of this song throughout the episode.
You, in talking about recording today, you texted me the wrong name of this song, and I didn't even bother to correct you because I wanted you to say it wrong in the show. So, Matt, what song are we talking about today?
Mr. Popeil?
No, that was closer than what you said earlier.
I think I spelled Pompii.
Yeah, you texted me Mr. Popeil, like the island where everyone died from the volcano. No, it's Mr. Popeil.
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 Right. I think I can nail this.
He does say it in the song like 1,000 times.
1,000 times, but he says like Mr. Popeil. Like if I say it like that, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm talking like a normal person, not so much. I hinted at this on Midnight Star, but I thought that this was about a made-up person until we started to prepare for recording this episode. I'm like, oh shit, like he is the guy. Like when you hear, but wait, there's more, or like set it and forget it, like that's Mr. Popeil, which is crazy. Like that this person I had no clue about. You know what I mean? Like I guess this would be like talking to a kid in high school who would have no clue who the ShamWow guy was.
The ShamWow guy, or what was the other guy?
I know he died, and I'm trying to remember his name.
Is it Billy Mays?
Yes, Billy Mays.
He did like OxyClean.
Yes,
and stuff
OxyClean.
Like that. Yeah, no,
definitely.
Ron Popeil is the original, one of those guys, the original infomercial guy.
And also had no clue that he like just died last year.
Yes.
Yes. Like when I was doing our research on it, because I did plenty of research on him, I just had to, because I had no clue that he was a real person. So like we said, he coined the phrase "set it and forget it." He popularized the phrase "but wait, there's more." His success in infomercials and memorable marketing personality was part of American television and allowed him and his products to appear in various popular media, including cameo appearances on The X-Files, Futurama, King of the Hill, The Simpsons, Sex and the City, The Daily Show, and The West Wing. And parodies of his infomercial were done on comedy shows like Saturday Night Live with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and then the Veg-O-Matic with Gallagher, taken and turned into the Sledge-O-Matic.
And the Veg-O-Matic was invented by Ron's dad.
Oh.
Sam Popeil. Sam Popeil was his father, and he actually invented the Veg-O-Matic. And Ron, the son, was the one who like had the charisma to go out there and sell it on television.
Gotcha. So the dad was the inventor.
Yes.
Sam
this
was
is
the
a whole
inventor.
family affair. This episode, we're going to get into all of this stuff.
Yeah, because Ron's sister sings on this, right?
Ron's sister, Lisa Popeil, is the person doing the backing vocals, or the lead, really. This is kind of a co-lead. We talked about this on Ricky. We were talking about Ricky, how few songs Al has where he is at any point not singing the lead. And this is another one, arguably like Ricky, that's kind of a duet, really.
Yeah. The only other notes that I had tied to the Veg-O-Matic, obviously the biggest thing that the Popeils provided the world was VeggieTales once did a parody of the Veg-O-Matic called the Forgive-O-Matic, and professional wrestling team Midnight Express dubbed their finishing move the Veg-O-Matic. He was voted by Self magazine as one of the 25 people who changed the way we eat, drink, and think about food. And he's been referenced in the music of Alice Cooper, Beastie Boys, and of course, Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes.
Leading us to this song, which you've got the history of who the song is about. But then, I mean, the other thing that we have to dive into to properly discuss the song is the B-52s, who I would say on this album, whereas the first album, there was only maybe one or two style parodies and the rest were kind of straight originals. You could almost say the same with this album. It's a lot of just straight originals, but this is undeniably a style parody that he is going for with B-52s.
And it's cool because the other style parody really on this record was Buy Me a Condo, which is less of a... Well, I mean, it's a Marley thing, but it's also a reggae thing.
It was
it's
like
a more
genre.
broad strokes. Exactly. It's a genre thing. This... I could say maybe this is the first real, truly sinking his teeth into it style parody of a single artist that he has ever done.
At least one that people had heard of.
I was saying,
like on
he
the
did
first
Tony
album,
OK, but that's a reach.
Tony Ok's still obscure 30, 40 years after that album came out.
Yeah, but
so
this is really the dawn of the idea of I'm going to write a song in the style of someone you've heard of, without actually just lifting the music from the original track exactly.
And then it's almost no turning back from this point.
I was going to say, this is huge. From this point on now, this becomes kind of pretty much standard operating procedure for Al.
Yeah. The ones that aren't inspired by another band becomes the rarity on the albums after this point. There's maybe an album that's like, oh, this is just Al doing his thing.
Yeah.
So... before we even dive into the song, I got to ask you, because I know my opinions, but B-52s, what are your feelings on the band?
Oh, boy. I hope we agree on the B-52s, but I know that they are divisive. I love the B-52s.
1,000,000%.
And honestly, I know that they're a weird group, and at this point in time, I feel like most people, when they think of the B-52s, if they think of anything at all, they think of Love Shack, which is
not what they are.
It's really not what they are, and that's the sort of song where if you told me, oh my God, I never have to hear Love Shack again in my life, I get it. I understand. Yeah. But the B-52s are one of the most unique bands of all time, as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to even verbalize or explain exactly what I'm getting at here.
I almost feel like the best way, so because I've had this issue before where it's like I'm trying to express why I love this band and people really only have, I would say, 1 to 3 entrance points that they know of the B-52s. It's either Love Shack is the one that pretty much everyone knows.
Yeah.
The only other charting single they actually had was Rome off that same album. And then obviously the world of comedy has made sure that Rock Lobster never truly dies in people's memories.
Of course.
But for me, it's like, if I'm trying to explain why I think the B-52s fucking rule, I play Private Idaho. I think that song captures everything that makes this band so interesting, because you've got this wicked guitar riff playing over the song. You've got this weird background vocals, but then you're getting a really good balance of Fred Schneider's lead vocals with the two women in the band's backup vocals, and then the keyboard stuff kicks in, and it's just you get the whole picture of how strange this 50s throwback surf new wave punk band was.
Yeah.
While also being a queer rock band, one of the earliest queercore bands.
Yeah, these guys are really progressive, and also the point I was dancing around earlier is it is so hard. I can't even, there's no way to really verbalize how difficult it is to start a band and have your sound be so unbelievably unique that no one will ever mistake you for anybody else, ever. And the B-52s, who have been around for, I guess it's 50 years now. I mean, obviously
it's got to be close, because it was 78 or 79 was Rock Lobster. So we're getting
so
there.
It's a long, long time, and obviously their most productive, their most of their musical output has ended in into the 90s. Although they've been making records for a while, still consistently.
Yeah.
I don't think even any band there's not many bands that have even tried to emulate the B-52s because you can't do it without. Well, funny enough, we're going to try
doing
it into
this.
Al. You can't do it without it seeming like a joke because their sound is so incredibly specific that any attempt to recreate it is obviously a ripoff. They are. I mean, I have so much respect. And another quick, honestly, I could talk about the B-52s for 1 hour, but we won't do that. Go listen to, you said, like, Rock Lobster was a minor hit when it came out. It didn't do super well, but it's kind of stood the test of time. Like, listen to that song and imagine a world where anyone at a record label heard that and was like, yeah, that sounds great. That's our single.
I'm going to share any chance I get to share this fun fact. The B-52s, Rock Lobster, it's on the record in an interview, was the song that made John Lennon reform the Plastic Ono band.
Really?
Because him and Yoko broke up that band because they thought that the world wasn't ready for like the type of abstract avant-garde music that they were creating. But when he heard Rock Lobster, he was like, these kids are clearly influenced by what Yoko and I were doing, and we need to bring this back. And at first when I heard that, I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. But then you listen to that second half of that song where they're just screaming out animal names and making like weird noises. And one of them is a straight up Yoko Ono, like la 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 la, like in the background. I'm like, oh, I get it. He definitely, and clearly he didn't like people in the 2000s listen to that song and hear a joke. He didn't. He was like, this is art and musicianship and abstract and strange and perfect.
It's incredibly strange. And even by today's standards, you listen to Rock Lobster, it's long, which funny enough, Al does in this song, and I really appreciate that it's not, he stretches it out. This is a long song because the B-52s do that. It just goes on, and I mean, again, we should strive to, I want to live in a world where stuff as weird and interesting as Rock Lobster or just the band, the B-52s, appear more often because honestly, man, there's like, we all would benefit from having artists this original in our lives more.
And I love that they, like, in the 90s, you and I probably, if Love Shack wasn't our first introduction to the band, it was probably the Rocco's Modern Life theme song. Like, well past their peak in popularity, they were still, like, they were, like, the band for art. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they were the artist's band. So, like, you've got this dude making this abstract fucking Nicktoon that felt like it shouldn't be on kids' television. And, of course, what band would he want doing his theme song but the B-52s?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Al is really nailing the Fred Schneider voice throughout this episode, this song.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, this is really, again, not to overplay, but especially at this point early on, this is, to me, feels like a really, really important track, and that this is a great example of him studying this band, learning their tricks, and then wielding them himself and just nailing it. Like, this is exactly, again, the lyrics are goofier, but funny enough, compared to the B-52s, they're not that outlandish. I mean, if the B-52s wrote a song about infomercials, like, it's oddly not totally inappropriate a subject matter for them.
No, not at all. I think where Al hits his strongest place in style parodies is with these weird bands. Think about it.
Yeah.
This, anytime that he's done Tony OK, Devo, They Might Be Giants, Talking Heads, like when he's doing those bands that are already strange and out there, he kills it.
And clearly,
it feels like almost
clearly
all those songs are
influences to him
stupid.
at all times, right? Like not
Yes.
just in this context, like clearly things that are important to him just as a young musician and songwriter.
Yeah, and those are definitive. The 5 artists that I just named, like those are all artists where those songs don't even feel like joke songs about that band. They feel like songs that band would have written.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
even the Talking Heads one, like it's I believe that one's Dog Eat Dog on Polka Party, right? And he's talking about the mundaneness of like office life, but like that's totally a topic that Talking Heads would write a song about. Like,
it definitely is, yeah.
Dare to Be Stupid hits all of the type of lyrical themes that a Devo song would be about. Like Everything You Know Is Wrong has all of the bizarre wordplay that makes you love a They Might Be Giant song. Like when he's playing with those bands that are already out there and strange, you can almost feel like, similarly to like how everyone says like De Palma's just been like making movies about how badly he wishes he could be Alfred Hitchcock. Like I feel like when Al's covering those or doing those songs, it really feels like if I couldn't be Weird Al Yankovic, I would want to be your band.
And he could be. Like that's the other. He is talented enough and he knows his shit well enough that he could do this. Like this is. We haven't even really started getting into the song itself yet, but like I just can't say enough. Like this is masterfully done. This is really, really, really impressive.
And I mean, as much as we're showering praise on Al, you also have to throw that praise on specifically Jim West, but the whole band. But Jim West is nailing that iconic B-52s guitar sound.
Yes, he really is.
Because that is another one of those, like you said, like a band that you know who it is when you hear it. Like that guitar, especially in those early B-52s albums, no one else sounds like that guitar.
Incredibly distinctive. Incredibly distinctive. I was just going to say this is, and I should know this, and I actually don't. So at this point in Al's career, I believe, is he the one playing all the keyboards?
I think that is still
accurate, he is,
yes.
right? Yeah, I thought so. Because he tours with Ruben, but I don't think this predates that time period for him. He wouldn't have had Ruben on this record.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is definitely a little before that. I can double check real quick though because that is not hard to do in this day and age. Weird Al in 3D, personnel, synthesizers, piano, and accordion. Weird Al Yankovic. So. Yeah, this is still him nailing. So he's nailing those keyboard parts also. So like it's a great.
Ruben joined the band in 1991. Al was doing all the keys himself up until that point. There it is.
That's insane. That's insane.
So that makes sense. So yeah, again, another great example. Like all those like Farfisa sounds. Like this is just a really, really super accurate. You know, we talked about how like the first record and portions of this as well. Like. Early on, they were not as focused on the sound engineering side of it in the same way, like the perfect sonic matchups of the parodies, whether they be straight parodies or style parodies. And this is a very impressive sound-alike recording of the B-52s. All the tones are there. Al does do the Fred Schneider voice really, really well. As a side note, I've realized like a few episodes ago, I said something about like how Al doesn't usually change his voice to accommodate a parody. I don't know what I was talking about. He does that all the time. And this is a prime example.
I think it's in the later albums. When he gets to the later albums, like he just goes for his nasally Weird Al voice. But these early records, he absolutely is like, I'm going to try to sound like I'm going to try to sound like Fred Schneider. And I mean, I posted a tweet that I still to this day think was the best tweet I've ever written, which was that I want to hear the B-52s cover "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence. I think that would be
God.
Like, because I'm just like, wake me up. Like it's like that. I love it. I think it's amazing. I think if we can shame Weezer into covering Toto for us, I think we can get the B-52s to do this.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. The B-52s supposedly are going out. They're touring this year, and they're saying that that's going to be it for them. So
then I might have to go to that.
We got one chance left to get them on board for this plan.
I just imagine that show has got to be some of the most fun shit that you could go and see live.
I've actually never seen the B-52s either. I have friends who went, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to slam anybody, but, B-52s have done a lot of this sort of touring where it's like them and one other band, like, the legacy, like 70s, 80s music tours. And I've heard of people going to see the B-52s with other acts, and a couple of them, all I ever heard from anybody was that the B-52s made whoever they were out with looked stupid with how good they were. Because the B-52s just destroyed the place, and the other artist could not possibly, come close to matching the energy and the fun.
I feel like that's got to be part of why Al either never has an opener or his opener is just a stand-up comedian, because it's like, how are you like let me paint a scenario for you.
Yeah.
Weird Al hits up Wheatus and says, "Hey, do you guys want to do some tours?" I mean, that's got to be a tough one, right? Because you know that you're going to be playing for your ideal audience, but you know that also whatever you do stage-wise, and you guys put on a very good stage show, is going to look like small potatoes when like the Al production comes out immediately afterwards.
Like how could we not do that? That would be the craziest thing in the world to turn down. We'd have to do it. But yeah, no, it's always intimidating to travel with. I will say, as the opener, you're in a better spot. The problem, like, the issue is when you're the headliner and you get upstaged by your opener.
Oh yeah, like if Al is opening for Wheatus.
Exactly, yeah. So I should have said that better. The B-52s were on first, and then it was another act after that.
I just imagine that there would never be a scenario where the B-52s aren't the headliner.
No, in all
show.
of these moments, I mean, the B-52s were huge, but I think they went out with bands who had more higher charting songs, so
that's a shame.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've heard, I mean, I'll name names, I don't care. I don't think that this is quite the same. But I've had friends who, like, they went and saw, because you get, like, those 90s nostalgia tours that roll around all the time. And they went to one that it was, like, Matchbox 20 and the Counting Crows.
Mm-hmm.
And they essentially went to see the Counting Crows. They're like, we love the Counting Crows. They're, like, one of our favorite bands. We've never seen them live.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're begrudgingly going to sit through Matchbox 20. And then I asked them afterwards, and they're like, Matchbox 20 is one of the most entertaining live bands we've ever seen, and we left midway through Counting Crows because they change up their songs way too much for us to enjoy it. And I've heard that be that is usually, depending on who you are, that is a bug or a feature to seeing Counting Crows live, is that they are still in their core a jam band first. So, like...
That sounds like people who go see Bob Dylan nowadays and are just like, it was 2 hours of unrecognizable music, and at some point you hear him go, "How does it feel?" You're like, oh shit, he's doing that song. I didn't realize.
I get it. I would be upset too as a person who loves to sing along to songs, and when they change it up and I can't keep up anymore, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this song ultimately? I know we didn't really break down the song itself, but really, in my opinion anyway, the art of this song isn't even in the lyrics. It's just on how pitch perfect the style is being nailed throughout it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's... Yeah, the style of it is great. I mean, the lyrics, it's just all this like infomercial style delivery of everything, which perfectly suits the Fred Schneider type character with the lady backing vocalists, who again, as we said, is Lisa Popeil. Another interesting side note, really quick. Apparently, Lisa Popeil Al met her through this because he heard she was a singer. Was like, oh, that would be fun to have her sing on this track about her brother.
Yeah.
And she actually gave Al vocal lessons.
Oh.
Because Al, this is early in his career, and he was having a problem that a lot of newly professional young singers have, where every night on stage he was completely blowing out his voice because he didn't know how to sing in a way that like preserved his vocal cords. And she basically taught him how he had to relearn how to sing with her direction. So that his voice was like more suited to the road, and
that's awesome.
Repeated singing. So she has been a friend for a long time. Lisa also went out with Al on the Strings Attached tour, which was between these two Vanity tours where he went out with a full orchestra, and she went out and did BVs with him for I think the first time ever. Actually, on the road. That's amazing. So they are still friends to this day, which is super, super cool.
I can't imagine we've talked about this before with other artists as well, but like, I just can't imagine anyone who's met Al walking away with bad blood towards Al. It just seems like he's so likable so likable. I mean, while we're doing one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this is to a certain extent, like both of us are passionate about music. You as a career, and me as just a listener of music. And not that he's disrespected, but if this podcast even just shines a little bit of light on like someone who just knows Al for the occasional parody that really blows up in the mainstream, I hope that they look back and go, holy shit, this is one of the all-time greats.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
But the big question is, where are we gonna rank this? I think I have mine.
I think I have mine too. I don't know if I'm going to regret this later, but I'm putting it between I'll Be Mellow and Midnight Star.
Okay. I was going to say, if you don't put this above Buy Me a Condo, I'm going to think you're insane. Mine's kind of close to where you're at. I actually put it just below Midnight Star.
Okay.
The only reason being that as dope as this is, as much as he kills this, like, it is him doing the B-52s, and he's doing a really good job, but like it makes me want to listen to more B-52s immediately after, whereas like Midnight Star, I'm just like, give me more of that good Al in the veins. Like, I think that is probably, that may end up being the number one best example for me of Al just doing an original song as Al, is Midnight Star. That song is incredible to me, but it's
a strong contender. I mean, it is really interesting, especially as we continue, because like I said, this is sort of like a marker, this song, of from the next record on, we start to get way more style parodies.
Yes.
Like more straightforward style
specific.
parodies.
Yeah,
yeah exactly. And this does draw a line in an interesting way. It's hard to compare in some ways. It's hard to compare something like Midnight Star to this, because the style parody element does change the calculus a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a different thing to consider, is like not just how well written his song is, but how solid the style parody itself is. But for me, on both fronts, and I guess my B-52s fandom is showing as well, but that's fine. I think this is one of the more accurate and kind of flawless style parodies he has ever done.
For sure. Hey, we both got it in our top three.
There you go.
I'm all for it.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.